Hey, what's up, my beautiful people? How y'all doing today? It's your boy Devo. We back with another day trading spy recap. We're gonna go over my trades today, and y'all know the deal. Gotta take a drink. For that strawberry banana body armor. Still be busting. But how you boys doing? Or boys and girls doing? I hope everybody's doing all right. Today we did take a trade. We had a winning trade. Not the biggest winner, small base hit. And I know y'all was saying, Devin, it's always a base hit. When are the home runs coming? The home runs are coming, okay? The home runs are coming. But before the home runs come, we have to do the dirty work. We have to get down and dirty with our studying, with our disciplines, and our risk management. We have to scale back because, as we know, last week, it was last week to start the week, I had winning heavy, bought 3 contracts, which is not that heavy, but pretty heavy for me, right? Because I don't have millions of dollars or much money, right? So I started with 3 contracts. Last week, well, I upped my size to 3 contracts, and actually, let me take this off. Sorry, I still had that OBS showing. And so I had 3 contracts going last week, and I burned myself because of it. Not because of the actual 3 contracts, but because I didn't follow my disciplines and my rules. So what did I do after that? I took a step back, and so now I'm only trading with 1 contract at a time until I build my account back up, and ultimately I get the confidence. Well, actually, I'm already feeling confident. Why? Because I've had Friday. I ended off with a winning trade. Yesterday, I didn't take a trade because I didn't feel comfortable, which that also builds your confidence because you're able to step back from the markets on days that you don't see something that you like. On days that you don't see something that you don't like, and you don't take a trade because you don't see something that you don't like, that ultimately can still help your confidence. Because also a hard thing to do in the markets is to step back, because we always just want to make money and just be in a trade and have that adrenaline rush. Because as you know, when you're in a trade, you have that adrenaline pumping, your heart is going. Even the most successful traders, when they get in the trade, their heart still pumps a little bit. It still gets a little adrenaline running because you're still in the trade. So the emotions never, they get easier to deal with, but the emotions never go away. Okay. And so I just had to take a step back. So I'm only trading with 1 contract size until ultimately I just build my account a little bit up more and more, build my confidence up more and more, and then you never know. Tomorrow I might go in with 2 contracts. The next day, if I tomorrow I'm gonna have a winning trade. Best believe tomorrow I am coming to y'all with a winning trade. Best believe that. But ultimately after that win, then maybe the next day I take another 2 contract. The day after that, maybe I'll only trade 1 contract. But then next week, maybe I might be feeling good, and on Monday I might come in trade 1 contract, and on that Tuesday, you never know, I might trade 3 contracts. You know what I'm saying? So you can't always be worried just about the money. Okay, the money is what we trade for, right? We all want to do this so we can make money and ultimately not have to depend on a 9 to 5, right? Ultimately, that's what we do this for. But you also have to take it slow and not rush things. Okay, this is just like anything that you're practicing. If you're trying to get good at playing guitar, if you're trying to get good at playing the piano, if you're trying to get good at playing basketball, if you're just like anything, it takes practice, and that's ultimately what this is. It's you got to practice, and if you have a step back, sit back, analyze yourself, go over your losses, because they're not failures, they are setbacks. Okay, remember that. Just because you have a loss doesn't mean you're a failure. Just because you have a losing week doesn't mean you're a failure. If you have a losing month, that doesn't mean you're a failure. If you have a losing month in total, that just means you have to step back. And even if you have a losing week, that means you just have to sit back, analyze yourself, go over your losses, and see where you can do better. Okay, and even on the days that you do win, still look at yourself and look at the market and see where you could have done better. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay, guys? Excuse me. Because today I did have a winning trade, but I still know I messed up somewhere. Okay, I still know I messed up in this market. I had a winning trade, but I didn't capitalize fully off of this move that I know I could have and know I should have, okay? And so let me pull this up on my phone real quick to make sure everything's running right for you guys. And how is everybody? I hope everybody today made some money, whether you went to a job or whether you were in the market, whether whatever. I just hope you got at least 1% better, and I hope you made some money today, okay? So let me pull this up real quick. Stay with me, my good people. Stay with me, my good people. And reminder, I love every single one of y'all that are with me. This is a journey, and this is a journey y'all are gonna be with me on, and we're gonna grow together, okay? So y'all see me in this beginning process. Y'all see me with the bad computer. Now y'all are seeing me with the good computer. Y'all are seeing me with the big losses, and y'all are seeing me with the small wins. Y'all are gonna see me with the big wins. Ultimately, y'all are gonna see the whole entire journey. So whenever I tell you I made $100 or I made $60, which y'all are saying it's not much, $60 isn't much, okay? But ultimately, that's how you build confidence. That's how you build yourself, and ultimately, it's practice. So eventually, you can start making thousands and thousands of dollars through one trade, okay? Excuse me. Hang on, just ate, okay? So I'm still trying to pull this up. Stay with me, my good people. Stay with me, my good people. I promise we have a lot to go over with today, okay? So stay with me. If you made any money today, please drop a comment below in the chat. And please tell me if you did take a trade. Tell me. Tell me if you had a winning trade or a losing trade. Drop how much you made. And ultimately, if you made more than me, that's cool. I am very proud of you, okay? That's the thing. I don't hate on nobody. I want everybody to win. And that's ultimately why I'm here. To document my journey, to show y'all my journey, to show y'all I'm just like y'all. I am a normal person just like y'all. And ultimately, we can all get on this journey together. We can all, this is a community where we can all share our wins, we can all share our losses, and we don't judge each other. Ultimately, we try to help each other, build each other up, and get better. Because what is the goal in life? To eat, okay? We're all gonna eat, okay? And nobody's gonna get left out from this knowledge, okay? So let me pull this up. Almost done. Okay. So, today, what I'm first gonna go over with is, how we had our rally to start. I'm gonna go over why we had this huge dump. I'm gonna go over these support lines, these resistance lines. As y'all know, these are very important because these are key levels. And as you can see, I have all these levels marked. And as you can see, we have a reaction from literally every single level. Besides this one, which pretty much got broken through. This level pretty much just got blasted through. Actually, yeah, the only level that really gave a reaction was our 514. The rest just pretty much got blasted through. That sell-off was crazy. But we're going to go over ultimately what happened. We're going to go over the news that we have coming out for tomorrow, which we have some big news tomorrow, which can ultimately shake these markets up even bigger, okay? Remember, we have a lot to drop. If we are really in a bear market, recession, crash, or whatever, we still have a lot more to drop, okay? So we're going to go over that. We're going to go into what we're looking at going into tomorrow, and that should be pretty much it. I don't want to remember. I don't want to I don't want to have these streams 2 hours long. My purpose on here is to get on here, analyze my trade, show y'all where I got my trade, go over our politic news. Not because I'm really big into the politics, but because we know the politics move the money. So basically, we're trying to get ahead of the game, know what's coming, what news is coming for the next day, so we can be ahead of the game, have the edge for going into tomorrow, and then ultimately I'm gonna show y'all what I'm looking for, and that should be it, okay? And so to start the day, what did we have? We actually had this sell-off to start the day. Well, actually we opened up. Okay, yeah, let me start right there. We actually gapped up. We opened up 505 all the way up to 520. So we had a huge gap up actually. So basically we really had a big rally, okay? And ultimately when we gapped up, what did we meet? We met this area of resistance at 522.12. As y'all can see, it's marked. It was marked why? Because this is where sellers previously pushed the price down, right? That's ultimately why I have these other areas of demand right here. Well, this was the area of demand, right? Yeah, this was the area of demand. This is where we had some buyers step in, which not too much of a heavy demand area because we didn't have a huge reaction, but it's also another demand area. This is the demand area because we see where this is where we had a reaction off of. I have another demand area because this is not demand, sorry about that, support area. Demand and support, supply and demand, and support and resistance are two different things, okay? So do not get those mixed up, okay? Just like I just did, saying demand area, this is not a demand area. These are support areas. These are areas where buyers have stepped in, but a demand area, your demand areas are in your order gaps and or your order blocks, okay? Excuse me. And if you have any questions on those, please drop them below, and we will have future videos on those certain things, okay? So don't worry about it. But we had this area marked why? Because we had an area of support, right? Because this is where we had buyers step in. It's not too strong of an area, but also why is it also a good area of demand? Because we also see this as an area of resistance, right? Because we see price when it broke through this demand, made it resistance. Any area where you have resistance turns into support, and support turns into resistance, okay? So we had this area marked already, and as price was dropping down, I'm not gonna say I had all these demand zones, these support areas already marked, but as we see price break through an area of support, that's when we mark out another area of support, okay? Because we want to know where can price potentially fall to, okay? So when I see price break through this area of demand, okay, now let me look at where price defended another area, right? And so we don't see no area of support, no area of buyers until where? Until this 509. So when we broke through our 514, what area are we looking to fall down to? Our 509. Okay, when it breaks through our 509, where do we have more buyers at? Well, we don't have more buyers until where? Until this 505 area, right? Because that's where we see price pumped up, right? That's where we see buyers defended, right? We don't see no other area in this little area from 509 to 505. We don't see no other area of support, right? So ultimately our 505 is our next support. When we drop down, where is another area of support? Okay, I can mark out my 500 level. Why right there? Because we see this is where buyers defended it, okay? We can see price got sold through these areas. This was a demand area. It broke through. Where did buyers step in? At this 500. So that's where another area of support is, right? And so remember, we want to know where these areas are at, because this is where we could potentially have bounces at, right? So whenever we're not just hopping in a trade and blindly just following price, because price won't always do this, okay? We already know we have these huge tariffs and Trump moves these markets, and so on, right? Whatever, right? And so you won't always have these just straight tank throughs. You won't always have 489, 525. You won't always have $35 of price action. Okay, that is huge. If you get in that from 535 and write it all the way down, that's literally like 5 times your contract. That's literally like 500% of your contract. So if I would have bought a contract for $300 at 525 and literally wrote it down all the way to 489, I'd probably literally be up like 5 times. I'd probably literally be up $1,200 off of one contract. That is insane, okay? And keep in mind, one contract. You don't have a limit to how many contracts you can buy. So if Monday I went in with 3 contracts. If I would have had 3 contracts for $300, 369, $900 of risk, and wrote it down and got 500% of $900 was 9 times 5, 45. So I would have had $4,500. You see what I'm saying? So don't always worry about how much money you actually make. Look at the percentage gains, okay? Look at your percentage gains. The percentage gain is what is important, okay? And so I'm gonna get more into that with this trade because I made 17% off of my contract size. That's not very good, okay? And so I know I did follow my strategy today. I know where I did good at, but ultimately I know where I could have done better at, okay? And that's the thing. Even though I had a winning trade, I'm not looking at it like I just have it all figured out. I'm looking at it, okay, I made 17% of my contract, but also I had price dump from 524 all the way to 489, and I only made 17% on my contract. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where it's like, okay, I had a winner, but did I squeeze all the juice out that lemon? You see what I'm saying? I didn't. I got a drop of that lemon juice out. I only got a drop of that lemon juice out. I didn't squeeze it hard enough, okay? So you see what I'm saying? And so let's break it down on what we seen today, okay? So let me go into my 1 minute, because my 1 minute is ultimately gonna show me just deeper into what price is doing, okay? And remember, price is fractal, so whatever you see in your 1 minute, whatever you see in your 1 minute, you're gonna see in the 5 minute. Whatever you see in your 5 minute, you're gonna see so on and so on. But you get more of a sniper entry, and you can see more of what price is doing in your smaller time frames. But there's a pro and there's a con to it, okay? Because, all right, let me give you an example. So in my 5 minute, what do I see? In my 5 minute, what do I get? I get a drop, but then I get a reverse trend, right? And I got a reverse trend. It just looks like a straight down and then a straight up, right? So it looks like just a straight reverse, right? It doesn't look like I got a mitigation block. It doesn't look like I got a breaker block or any of these formations, right? It just looks like a straight drop and just a straight shot up. So that's when you want to come into your 1 minute and be able to actually see what price is doing to the T. But ultimately, you want to be on your big time frames to see where price wants to go, okay? So let me come back into my a little bigger time frame. 5 minute isn't necessarily the big time frame. Let me pull into the 15 minute. So we're scalpers, right? So as a scalper, what are my time frames? My main time frames I want to be on is my 15 minute. I don't know why I put 10 fingers up, but my 15 minute, my 5 minute, and my 1 minute, right? Because we are scalpers, right? Our 1 hour, I do look at my 1 hour just to actually like look at a bigger scale to see what the market is doing in a bigger scale. And I will go into my daily. I will go into my daily just to actually see where another area of support is. You see what I'm saying? So this is how I mark out my supports for you guys. Okay, I see I had a support right here. I have a support right here. Why? Because this is where buyers jumped up at. I don't need to have it marked because we already broke through. I have these up here marked because they're gonna help me show you my trade for today. So I didn't want to delete those because They're gonna help you break down my trade today. So I will delete those after the trade because we already broke through them all, right? So we don't really need those, right? We don't really need those because we broke through them. But ultimately, I have these marked for tomorrow, okay? So I have an area of support at 481.84, which I'm gonna have to move that just a little bit to get an even number. You know, we like even or pretty numbers, right? And so, whereas another area of support is at our 466.55. Excuse me. Which is absolutely insane, okay? Why is that absolutely insane? Jesus Christ. I'm yawning, burping, everything. I'm sorry for that, guys. Jesus Christ. Alright, so why is this level insane? 466.55. And honestly, this level is insane right here. This level right here is insane. But these are even more insane. Anything in the 400s, and honestly, I can see us dropping even lower, right? I can see us dropping potentially even lower, okay? But why is that insane? Because as we see, price was at 612 bucks just to start the year. In the start of 2025, and up till February 25th, we were at $612 on the SPY, and at the S&P 500 we were up to 6,000. Now we are trending downward to 480 bucks. That's where we already wicked at, and we can potentially drop even lower. Okay, so that is pretty insane. Okay, down almost 200 bucks, and literally down 100 bucks, over 100 bucks in literally a month, in 2 months. Like that's pretty insane. Literally a month, because what, February 25th, so what, March 25th, April, we're not even at April 25th yet, so literally a month and some change, and we were down over 100 and something bucks. Okay, so that's insane. All right, so I know I yapped a little bit, but ultimately I'll just try to give y'all breakdowns on why I have these things. Okay, so because if I just tell you I did this and I did this and I did that and I did this, you won't really get the gist. All right, so that's why I like to break down why I have these areas marked, where I have them marked, why, and ultimately just everything in it, so you can understand the concepts. Okay, you don't want to just follow things just because people say them, or just because, okay, I know an order block, I know I'm supposed to get in at an order block. You want to know, why do I get in at my order blocks? Why do I get in at my fair value gaps? Why do these support areas hold up? You see what I'm saying? You don't want to just, oh, it's a support area, that's why I got in. Because ultimately you want to know why these things work, right? Because when they don't work, you don't want to just be like, I don't know why it didn't work. I mean, it was a support area. You want to know, why didn't that support area hold up? Or, you see what I'm saying? You want to know the concepts and deeper into these things, okay? Ultimately, if you are really trying to make money, you got to understand deeper into it. You can't halfway do it, okay? You want to understand the full thing to it, okay? And that's also another thing I wanted to tell y'all, and I was actually thinking about before I got onto here. So let me go down to my 1 minute. And I know I yap a lot, but trust me, like, everything I'm saying, it might sound like yap, but it's not just yap, okay? It's a lot of value into these things, okay? And whenever you start trading, or maybe you are trading, I know some of you can relate, and I know if you are trading, you understand some of the things I'm saying, okay? Because these things are ultimately important, knowing the concepts of everything, okay? So let me just go into what I seen coming into the day and what happened, okay? So to open the day, we obviously had this huge gap up, and what did we do? We gapped up to this resistance. This resistance held its own, okay? And I know I have it green, but you'll see why I have it green, okay? And ultimately, this resistance held it up, broke down before buyers came in. And what is this? This gave us a mitigation formation, okay? Why did it give us a mitigation formation? And honestly, I haven't even taught y'all that. It gave us this mitigation formation because we had a breakdown, we had a pullback, but it couldn't fully break this last lower low, right? Because we had a high, a low, and then we had a lower high before making a higher low, right? And so we didn't continue the trend because we didn't make a lower low. So we made a high, a low, a lower high, and then a higher low, okay, before ultimately reversing trend, making a higher high, and then we had range, right? So let me just delete that. All right. So then we ranged up to this area of resistance, and I had this marked right here because this was an area of resistance. So getting in at this mitigation formation, I would not have got in at, right? Because I already know we're under huge sellers, we're under huge selling territory, we're itching up towards a resistance, and ultimately that's just not safe to take, right? Because even though we have this mitigation formation, we're itching up to resistance, right? So no trade for me right there. Even though this is a prime and really good, like a really good mitigation formation, right? Because what did we have? Like I said, we had the mitigation, we had the high, the low, the lower high, but then we had a higher low before breaking up, right? And what do we always want after our actual formation? We want a pullback into our fair value gaps or our order block. Well, we had this retracement, and it wicked this fair value gap and shot up, right? Shot up from 521 to 524. $3 gain. I mean, that's a good move. That's a good solid move of price action right there, right? So you could profit off of that. But ultimately, we are not looking for quick profits, right? Well, we are looking for quick profits because we are scalpers, okay? But we're not one-hit ponies, right? We are not one-hit ponies. We are not playing the lottery, okay? So ultimately, we want to follow disciplines, follow our strategies, and these strategies are backed from back testing. That's why whenever you have a strategy, you want to back test through the market. And ultimately, these strategies are upon years and years of actual market data, right? So when I say supply and demand and these mitigation formations, these breaker block formations, these are formations that have been repeated through years and years of market, okay? Market price action. So you want to follow these rules and follow your disciplines because ultimately those are going to carry you and keep you in the game long term, okay? And so you can say, Devin, I made $1,000 because I hopped in at this resistance and rode it all the way down, which that's not bad, right? I mean, support and resistance is not bad. When you see it reaching towards an area of resistance and you hop in for the sell, that's a strategy. That's a strategy. But ultimately, you got to make sure you have a strategy, right? Because, like I said, we are not one-hit ponies. We're trying to make sure that we can translate our strategy and our disciplines and make sure we can make money daily through these markets. If not daily, every other day, because you know you will not have your strategy every single day. The market won't give you your setup every single day. But you want to have your strategy so you can bring it into the markets daily, right? Because we're ultimately, what are we trying to do? We're trying to be able to make money through the markets and not have to go to a 9 to 5. We're trying to be able to sit on vacation, sit in Dubai somewhere, or taking care of our family, and we can be on our laptop and on our phone making money, paying for that trip, paying for that vacation. You see what I'm saying? We're not trying to just get in and make $5,000 one day, but then I can't repeat that process and I just hit the lottery. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, people can come in the market and hit the lottery. It's either going to go up or down or sideways, right? And so you can get in. I seen red candles and I hopped in for the sale, and you could get this lucky $30 of price action move. But is that sustainable? Can you do that day in, day out? You see what I'm saying? So that's why you have these strategies, so you can do these things day in, day out, okay? So what had happened today? So we had our breakup to start the day. We dropped down because we hit area of resistance before creating this mitigation formation. It did give somewhat of entry, but not safe entry for me. Why? Because we reached up to this area of resistance, okay? We broke through this area of resistance, heading to another area of resistance, right? So this is where you were just looking at price action and seeing what it wants to do, right? You don't hop in any of this. Why don't you hop in any of this? Because these are equal highs, equal lows. So we don't trade equal highs and equal lows. We do not trade in a range, okay? We know this. We went over this. And please, if you have not watched my video on market structure, please go watch it, because ultimately it will break down pretty much a lot of what I'm saying, and a lot of the confluences and terms that I use will be broken down in that video, okay? So if you don't understand when I'm saying change of characters, if you don't understand when I say breakup structures or fair value gaps or order blocks or higher highs, higher lows, equal lows, that video will break it down for you. So ultimately, if you understand those things, you can pretty much look at the market and you're pretty much ready to trade once you see those things. Now there's more things into it, like strategy and discipline and risk management and stuff like that. But ultimately, if you watch that video and you understand those terms, you're ultimately know what you're looking at in the market somewhat, okay? And so please, if you have not watched that video and you do not understand what I'm talking about, please go watch that, okay? So what did we have? We had an area of this resistance that turned back to support. Why? Because we broke through and held it, right? We were holding this area, so it was an area of support, right? And then it was stuck between this area of resistance as well, right? So it was given a range, and so now you're just waiting to see, okay, am I going to get a breakout, test on my range, and just another move up? And then ultimately I would have had to mark out future resistance areas. So whenever I broke out of this area of resistance and got my test on it, I would have got in for the buy. Why? Because we would have had our mitigation formation, which is bullish. We would have had a bearish mitigation formation, or a bullish mitigation formation, because we switched from bearish to bullish. We would have had a range, we would have had a range under our resistance and on our support. If we would have broke through that resistance, continuing the uptrend, I would want to see a pullback and test on this resistance, and I would have been in, right? I would have been in for a call, right? But what did we do? We broke down, right? We broke down and actually tested this area of support, turning it into an area of resistance. So now let me turn it red, making it an area of resistance, right? And this is where I was watching all this live, okay? I was locked into the market. I was watching it from 8:30 on to pretty much the whole time, right? Because the price action was insane, okay? And so I seen this, it broke through, but what? We are still in a bullish formation, right? Because we had this mitigation, right? So we have a higher low, and then we break up, making this higher high. Excuse me. And so that's what I'm actually looking at. Oh man, let me delete this real quick. So that's what I'm looking at right now. I had this mitigation at a higher low, making a higher high, and then having a pullback range, okay? And so I was looking at this, and it broke down, right? And so I just didn't feel safe with it, right? I did not feel safe with this until it actually broke this higher low, right? This higher low down here. Because yeah, we did break up and create a range, but I still felt like this could be a range and then distribution to ultimately hit maybe this order block and then continue the bullish trend, right? And so I said, okay, I do not trust it just because it broke out that range, okay? I do not trust it just because it broke out that range. I want to see price actually come and take out this low, right? Because ultimately that is how you change the trend, by taking out your higher low, right? Because if I have a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high, how do I know it's a reversal of trend? By breaking our last higher low, right? That is ultimately how we get our change of character, right? And so I wanted it to break this low, and I would have got in. What did it do? It broke that low and actually gave a pullback. Why is this a pullback? Because we have one candle, two candles, three candles finishing above our above each other. We have 3 candles finishing above each other. So what con- what considers a pullback? What qualifies as a pullback? There we go. What qualifies as a pullback is at least 3 candles that close above each other. At least 3 candles that close above each other. Remember, this right here. Remember this right here. This is a retracement. Even this is a little retracement. Jesus Christ. Even that's a little retracement. Why? Because these are pauses in price. So we had a retracement up to this area of previous support, making it a resistance for getting a reaction down. But this is just a retracement, right? This would actually be considered a little pullback, right? This would actually be considered a little pullback. And so that is where I would have actually had a good entry at. That is where I would have had a good entry at. And as I told y'all, I was looking at it all, and that is why I'm going over it with y'all, because that is where I can get better, right? Because live, I just didn't get in, right? I just didn't get into it, and that's where it was on me, because he broke my last higher low, and I still couldn't pull the trigger on F's. I mean, it broke my last higher low. It gave the pullback, and what did it do? It gave the pullback. It started waking up to the bottom of this, showing that it gave me a change of character. It was giving me this pullback, testing the bottom of this higher low, giving the wicks, and it was rolling over, giving me my dojis, rolling over. Got this engulfing. So honestly, I could have gotten in right here at this candle, and it would have been good, because why? I know where my another area of support is. So I could have gotten at this 517 candle and rode it down to my other area of support before getting this engulfing. When I started seeing this engulfing up past this candle, I would have pulled the trigger and sold it, right? So that would have been a good, that's why I go over it with you guys, because that's ultimately teaching you guys, but ultimately teaching myself and seeing where I could have got better at, okay? And so that's where I'm seeing I could have had a good entry at, right? Where else could I have got a good entry? Honestly, I feel like that was honestly the best one. Why? Because whenever we actually came down to this support, and you're saying, Devin, we had another area, we bounced off of the support and tested the bottom of this, I guess, this range, right? And you're saying, Devin, you could have got in right there, right? Well, no. Why? Well, this isn't a range, but the bottom of this uptrend, right, which we broke through, changed character, and you're saying, Devin, this support held up and gave us our pullback to the bottom of these lows, right? Well, yes, but what is this called? What is ultimately is this? Equal highs and equal lows. We do not trade equal highs and equal lows. That's why whenever you have your breakout and pullback, you want to get in for those, okay? Because these are equal highs and equal lows. You do not trade those, right? So where could I have another entry at? When this was later on into the day, and this was actually, I believe, late 10 o'clock, and it has it at 15, 16, 17. Excuse me. Excuse me. And so y'all know I don't understand them time frames, but this was around 10, 11 o'clock. So that's late in the day, right? That is very late in the day. I don't normally trade through those days, right? And I swear, whenever I was seeing this range, I was like, man, price action is pretty much done. I was like, it's late in the day. I do not trade this late in the day, because in the mornings, that is whenever you typically get your most volatility. Early in the morning, from between 9, 10, 10:30, that's mainly whenever you're going to get most of your volatility, because that is most of the time when big institutions are in the markets, right? But as we know, we have these heavy sell-offs, so we're getting retail traders selling, we're getting institutionals selling, so you're just getting all types of selling. And so it pretty much is just price action all day, because as price is dropping and people see their portfolios going down, they're also selling, right? Because they're trying to get their money out the markets, because they're losing money, right? So as they see markets dropping, I mean, they're selling and getting out the market. And as they see the bad news, they're selling and getting out the market. So pretty much you're having volatility and pretty much dropping all day, right? So now we're going to get into where I got into the trade at and where I'm disappointed in myself. It followed a strategy, but ultimately I could have been a little more patient because you're saying, Devin, you waited from 8:30 all the way to 11. That is patience. Ultimately, if I would have had about 10 more minutes of patience, I could have had an even bigger move. So that's where we're gonna get into it. What did we do? We broke through this area of support. Okay, man, they must know I'm streaming because they got me yawning for some reason. As soon as I start streaming, I start yawning. Okay, I'm gonna delete all this. Okay, so what did we do? We broke through this area of support. Oh man, I didn't even delete it. I don't even know why I just deleted it. I just meant to change the color. Oh man, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. Okay, we broke through this area of support. Gave our retracement. Remember, a retracement, not a pullback. And this is where I got in at. That's exactly where I got in at, okay? This is exactly where I got in at. We broke through with this strong strength seller candle. Gave a retracement. As we started pulling down the wick, I pulled the trigger, got in, right? And ultimately we got this little pause before getting another seller candle. Excuse me. And we started getting this pause. Man, excuse me, I'm very sorry about that. I'm not even tired. I don't even know why I'm yawning. But so we had this another area of strength candle. And then once we started getting this retracement, I pulled the trigger and got out. So ultimately I was in for literally like, what is this? 16:18. 16:23. I was literally out in literally 5 minutes. That is prime scalping. But it would have been prime scalping if I actually would have had waited for the actual pullback up to my area of resistance before breaking through this support. So this is where I could have had a better move at, right? So I got in at this retracement, testing this area of support before breaking down. And honestly, right here, I was like, it's already late in the day, a lot of price action. It tested my support. I'm just going to take my profits because you never know what's going to happen. We're late in today around, it was like 11 o'clock now, right? About 11 o'clock. We already had this huge about $20 of price action down, or $15, whatever. $15 of price action down. I had this. I was like, once I started to get this, I was like, I don't even want to stay in for a pullback. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to risk none of my profits. I'm not going to let green turn to red. I was like, I'm already in profit. I'm not even going to like play with it, right? So once I started seeing like these little dojis, because honestly, I seen this retracement and I wanted it just like this, right? After we broke through this range and got to the retracement, just started just kicking Granny down the stairs. That's what they call it. When you see these candles like this, Granny is falling down the stairs. That is what they call it. When you see these strong selling, just falling, just doop 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 doop, just stairs down, just doop 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 doop. No type of pullback or nothing. That is Granny falling down the stairs. Okay. And so that's honestly what I wanted right here, right? We retraced back up to this area of resistance. Granny did not fall down the stairs. They did not give me stairs for Granny to fall down. We started to get these dojis. I got out. What did I ended up with? $65. You're saying, Devin, $65? You watched the market for 3 hours to make $65? Yeah, I watched the market for actually longer than that. I watched the market literally the whole day. Because even after, because I didn't have much money in my account, right? So I pulled money out my account. Why? Because I want to trade with the small position size, because I messed myself up. I messed myself up last week, and I know it. That's why I'm following discipline. I'm following my own disciplines. And I already told y'all, I'm taking a step back, pulled some money in my account. I'm only playing with about $500 in my account. So I had that option price was about, I think, $350, right? About 300, something like that. And so ultimately I only had about 150 bucks left in my account. So ultimately, I mean, that's not enough for a contract. I mean, a contract may be $20 out of the money, but I mean, at that point, kind of what are you doing, right? I mean, you would have hit, you would have honestly hit if I would have had a contract $20 out of the money, but I mean, you don't normally get that, right? So I mean, that's just gambling at that point. And so honestly, I had this trade, 65 bucks, right? Can't complain because you're in profits, but ultimately you want to see where you can get better at because I know I could have made more than that, right? And remember, 65 bucks, it don't sound like much, but that is also only off of one contract. That is about 513, 512. That was only $1 of price action. That's not much. That's nothing, right? And that's where I'm disappointed in myself because I could have been a little more patient, waited for this actual pullback because I knew this wasn't a pullback. I knew this was just my retracement, but I wanted Granny to get kicked down the stairs. We did not get that, and that's why you just stick to your strategy. I stuck to my strategy because we broke through the area of support, right? We broke through the area of support and we pulled back into the strength candle. So that's my strategy, but I like to actually have a full pullback. I don't get in on retracements. I don't like to get in retracements. I want to get in at the full pullback and then an actual engulfing candle and I'm in, right? I want to see a full pullback. I want to see a wick at that last candle. I want to see an engulfing candle and that's where I get in at, okay? But what did we have? What did I do? I didn't capitalize how I know I should have, but ultimately I was good at taking my profits, right? That is one thing I can say I was very good at, right? Because two good things I did, right? I had an area of support. I had a good area of support that we broke through, and when we broke through it, we tested this, made a resistance, right? And before we actually got this pullback, I was already out, right? So I didn't lose any of my profits, right? Because once I started getting this doji, I was out, right? And so that's where you're good. That's where I did good at knowing my support and knowing just to not play with the profits, right? Because I'm knowing that this isn't my actual pullback. So I'm knowing if Granny don't just get kicked down the stairs, we can have an actual pullback, right? And so that's where I did do good at, knowing my support and taking profits, not letting green turn to red, remember? Because you do not play with your profits. There's no rules on when to take your profits. Take your profits whenever you feel like they're in danger, right? I felt like, okay, I'm not getting what I thought I was going to see. I started getting a little pause. I'm going to take my profits. I felt uncomfortable, take my profits. There's no rules saying I gotta wait for it to touch my other area of support to take profits. Nah, when I'm in profits, I can take my profit. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what I did. I took profits right here. It actually did a pullback, made this resistance before breaking through this other area of support, and it just tore through that support. It didn't even see support right here. It just broke through it, and what did it do? It stopped midway from this other area of support, and this is how you know it actually was area of support, because what did we do? We pulled back and actually tested this area of support and made it resistance, right? Now we have this wick up, which is probably testing some type of gap. It's probably a fair value gap, probably the 5 minute. Excuse me. We can come over here and see where. Yeah, as you can see, we had a fair value gap right here. And that's what I honestly think I'm gonna start doing. I'm gonna start, I think, trading more on my 5 minute because I think I get too caught up in my 1 minute and just looking at, because your 1 minute will give you so many different formations, like, because we know all these different terms, these breaker blocks, mitigation blocks, and all these things. And so the 1 minute will give you all types of formations, right? Because it's all of it's literally every single transaction that's happening in the market, right? You're literally getting every single buy, every single sell, and you will get all types of things. So you see how in my 1 minute I had a mitigation block and everything? My 5 minute, you don't see a mitigation block. You see what I'm saying? You ultimately just see the overall perspective, you know? But in the 1 minute, you're gonna see every single detail. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, for example, right now you see my hand, but if I look deeper into my hand, I could see the lines, I could see my calluses on my hands and stuff like that. So you see what I'm saying? When you go into your 1 minute, you're seeing the calluses, you're seeing the lines in your hands, you're seeing the little hairs in it. You see what I'm saying? But if you go down into your bigger time frames, you're just seeing the hand. you can't see all those little things. You see what I'm saying? I know it's probably a weird a weird example, but I hope you understand what I'm saying through that. So look, let me mark out this. Yeah, let me mark out this gap because it's honestly perfect right here. Because like I said, on that pullback, we probably had some type of gap in our 5 minute, right? That's exactly what I just said, right? So now let me go back down to my 1 minute to see that where that gap was, to see if that's what it was. Exactly what it was, right? We dropped down. Oh no, that's the wrong one. So we actually had this pullback right here. But what did we have down here when it touched this area of support? Pulled back into a fair value gap, right? And as you can see, this fair value gap held up, and it actually came up and tapped this order block again. So that's where you can see these fair value gaps and these order blocks are very important because it tapped the fair value gap, gave me another drop down to 503. When it came down here, it retraced back to see if this area was good enough to hold up, and it actually came and tapped the order block, or tapped more of a gap. It tapped just under the order block, right? So I guess it tapped this gap up here. So basically kind of same thing. Basically tapped the order block, right? And so that's where I could have been better at by. So I had a good gist of what was going to happen, right? I had the good, okay, I had my breakthrough support. But where I did mess up at, I could have been more patient on, okay, I broke the area of support. Now let me get my pullback to my area of support, making it. I broke my area of support, and now let me get a pullback, making it resistance and to drop. But no, I rushed the process when I was patient the whole day, but ultimately I started rushing the process right here. It broke through my area of support. I got in at the retracement, and I did get profits, but I limited myself. You see what I'm saying? I limited how much profits I could have had, because ultimately if I would have stuck to the whole strategy, I followed the strategy, but I didn't wait for the actual pullback. I got in on the retracement. And so if I would have stuck to this, I would have gotten at the pullback and been able to write it down. I would have been cautious at this at this support area. This is where my take profits would have been, right? At my support area. But I would have wanted to see a reaction at my support area, right? Not just, okay, it's a support, I'm out. No, I want to see a reaction off of the support, right? We had no reaction off of the support to win. So I had this pullback. Honestly, I would have got out right at this candle. And I know you see another heavy seller candle, but I would have got out right at this pullback because I know we broke this area of support. So I know we have some type of buyers in this area. As you see these buyers step in, I know you broke the area of support. I know there's some type of buyers right here, right? So whenever I got this candle, this other strength candle basically matching this seller candle, I would have got out. And ultimately that would have been about, say when I started getting this big engulfing candle, say if I would have got in like right around this 513 and held it and got this engulfing right here, 513 to 509, that is $4 of price action. That's still good price action. You see what I'm saying? So that's where there's a lot of money to be made. And so what did I say yesterday? Excuse me. What did I say yesterday? Let's go to my channel. Jesus Christ. Okay. What did I say yesterday? The market is open Monday through Friday. There's plenty of money to be made. Don't FOMO. Follow your disciplines, and the results will follow, right? So I missed a $40 price action, right? But ultimately, what did we have today? We had another $35 price action. So you see what I'm saying? That's when I'm telling you that there's money to be made. There's plenty of money to be made. There's plenty of opportunities. Okay, that is a big word. And I'm not saying like big word like you can't pronounce it or spell it or whatever, but I'm saying like that is a very important word. Opportunities is a very important word, okay? Because whenever I missed these opportunities to get in the market, especially on this very good pullback right here, this is a very good pullback. Testing this low because we change of character, we gave a change of character, tested the low, right? Gave me my pullback to my low before getting a engulfing candle breaking back downwards, knowing where my support is at, and so I could have held it till I got my engulfing from my support, right? And so I missed the opportunity, right? But you don't you don't bash yourself up over it. You don't bash yourself up over it, and you don't let yourself, like, you don't get beat up over it, right? You don't let yourself beat yourself up over it, right? Because there's plenty of opportunities in the markets, and there's plenty of money to be made. There's opportunities every single day, every single week, every single month, and literally, as you can see, every single minute, right? Because these are minute candles. Every single minute you have an opportunity. And so that's why I'm very big on opportunity, because that's in the market, and that's in everything. Don't dwell on the losses or things that you miss, because there's plenty of opportunities everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And when you look for the opportunities, whenever you stop looking at the negatives and stop looking at things that you miss, you will start to see more opportunities. Okay, when you start to look for opportunities in life, in the market, and anything that you do, it's not just trading. Trading ultimately boils down to life. You know what I'm saying? Because it's always you versus you. You're not fighting the market. The market is not fighting you. The market is going to do what it does, right? It's up to you to have a discipline, have a strategy in place, and to look for the opportunity to capitalize off the opportunity, okay? And so that's why I love trading, because it ultimately boils down to everything. If you can master yourself, you can master the markets, okay? And so if you look for the opportunities in anything, you will find them, okay? And that's where I ain't gonna lie, I was frustrated. I was frustrated. I was like, man, I missed the whole move, and I've seen TJR made 100 bands and stuff like that, and I'm still not in the move. I still didn't get a good trade, and I'm still a little like, man, I made $65 today, and I know there's traders out there who made thousands of dollars today. I know some of you were in the live, and y'all probably made hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Y'all probably made thousands of dollars. I didn't, okay? But that's where I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm going over these trades, and I'm going to get better. So tomorrow I can show up, know where I can, and today I know where I can do better. So tomorrow when I show up, I can do better and ultimately capitalize off the opportunities that are going to present themselves, okay? They are going to present themselves. You just got to be willing to look for them and to capitalize off them, okay? And so I got into this retracement, wrote it down, only made $65, but remember, $65 on only one contract and $1 of price action. And if I would have waited for my actual pullback, I could have had $4 of price action, which would have been good, right? That would have been like awesome. $4 price action is pretty good. Can't complain. If I would have got in where honestly I had an A plus entry at this 519, would have held it down and probably got out around 515. That's a $4 price action as well, right? And so that's where I will capitalize off these moves. And I'm telling you, I keep coming to you guys and telling you I made a base hit. I got a base hit today. I got a base hit. But these home runs will come, okay? This is just the beginning. I made $65 today, and I'm not embarrassed to tell y'all that. I made $65. But that's how you start, and ultimately you practice and you get better. And $65 is just the start, okay? Don't beat yourself up over little gains, because ultimately what is it? It's a gain. It's $65 more than what I had, okay? And that's how you got to look at everything, okay? You got to be grateful, and you just got to look for the opportunities, okay? And so that's pretty much it for the trade recap, right? I mean, I got in at this 513. I got this strength candle breakdown before getting this little retracement. Granny didn't get kicked down the stairs, and so I got out. But I know I should have waited until my actual pullback wick and an engulfing, and I would have been able to write it down further down to my support. I seen that support got broken through, so I would have been able to hold it until I got another engulfing, right? And ultimately, where the A plus entry, because this is an A plus entry, change of character, I had my mitigation. So the mitigation formation is showing we're in a bullish trend, right? For writing it, and whenever we breaking this range, we're still in the uptrend. Technically, we're still in the uptrend until we break our last higher low, right? We broke our higher low, we tested that higher low, making it basically like an area of resistance before getting an engulfing, and that's where I could have been at, and that would have been an A plus entry. Wrote it down to my other area of support. That would have been A plus entry, okay? And so that's where we're not going to beat ourselves up over it, because why? We know the market is going to be here tomorrow, And through God's grace and God willingly, we are gonna be here tomorrow. And if we do, or if we are able to wake up tomorrow and get back to the house before 8:30, God willingly, because you just never know. God willingly, if we're able to make it back to the house, we are going to capitalize. And tomorrow, my goal is to come to y'all and tell y'all I had a home run, because I haven't been able to tell y'all I've had a home run yet. I've had home runs throughout my career. Don't get it wrong. I've had home runs throughout my trading, but I haven't been able to come to y'all and show y'all my home run. And so that is what I'm looking for tomorrow, because I plan on coming to you guys and telling y'all home run day. And y'all will hear it. Whenever I have a home run, y'all will hear it. That will probably be the thumbnail, just home run. That will literally, I mean, not thumbnail. That'll probably literally just be my title, home run. Just, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't had it in a while. So I'm going to delete those, because those aren't really too important. And so what are we going to do now? I know this live is probably a little long, but now we have to look at what the markets are, where the aftermarkets are. We got to look at where the aftermarkets are right now. We got to mark out our supply and demand areas for tomorrow, and we got to go over the news to get an edge, to get our edge right. We got to get our edge going into tomorrow. Okay. So first, let me look at our news so we can get our edge, so we can get our edge and Jesus Christ, I'm trying to look for the word. Get our edge and then mark out our demand zones, or our I mean, not our demand zones, sorry. So we can get our, okay, stay with me. We're going to look at the news going into tomorrow, our political news going into tomorrow, so we can get our edge going into tomorrow. So we're going to get our edge so we can mark out our support areas or our resistance areas. There we go. Depending on if our news is bearish or bullish. There we go. It took a while for that to come out, but I hope y'all got it. So let me come over here and show you guys real quick what some news is coming out to tomorrow. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of this strawberry banana real quick. Sorry about that, guys. That stuff's so good. Okay. So let's look at what we got going on to tomorrow. U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports are set to rise to an astounding 104%, while dozens of other countries as well as European Union face a midnight deadline for levies that will range from 11% to 50%. China said it would fight to the end of the trade war and continue to stand up to Trump. So that is huge. China is not standing down. And as you know, majority of our things say made in China. And so that goes with our iPhone products. A lot of things that we, I'm not too big into knowing everything, but I know our iPhones are mainly made over there, and the labor is cheaper over there. So, and that's where a lot of our manufacturers are what is it called? Our freaking God dang it, our manufacturing like facilities, that's where they make the products. Oh my God, I don't even know what it's freaking called. The building that they make the products. Okay, that is where a lot of our manufacturing gets done in China and stuff like that. So that is a very big deal, because just like our iPhones and a lot of other things, which I'm not too sure, and that's where I will continue doing research for you guys. But a lot of our products are made in China and stuff. So ultimately, I know we're Apple is adding about 500 billion to add to make our manufacturing here, and I can't think of what the actual building is called. Jesus Christ! But they're putting 500 billion into the U.S. so we can build our manufacturers over here. But ultimately, that will take a while, right? That's going to take about probably a couple years, just to build that and get it running and get people in the buildings and hire our people. But ultimately, in the US, we make more money for our jobs. We cost more labor. So these iPhones that we paid $1,200 for, which is still expensive, right? It's gonna cost even more to make these things over here, right? Because the labor is more expensive, pretty much the parts are more expensive all over here. And so ultimately, what does that do? That raises the prices on our stuff, because if we're actually making the products now instead of China, so China makes our products, right? Their labor is cheaper, so ultimately we put less money into them, so we're able to sell. They're able to sell the products. Apple and just like other companies that use China's labor are able to sell the products to us a little cheaper because they can still make their profits. But if they have to move things to the US and they have to pay more prices for these products, ultimately for them to still make profits, they have to raise the prices on the things. You see what I'm saying? And so that's where prices jump up. And then also, with the export goods, if China has to pay more to put goods into here, they're not going to pay the deficit, right? They are going to up the prices on those products. So say like, I'm not sure if they give us oranges. I'm pretty sure they don't give us oranges. But just for example, if it costs $2 for them to import an orange into here, with their if it costed 50 cents before, right? And so the orange cost $1.50 for us, right? And now it's costing $2 for them to put it into here. Ultimately, they're going to raise the price on us, so it's $1.50 more for them. So they're going to raise this orange $1.50 more, right? So instead of $1.50, it'd be $3, right? Because they're not going to pay the price. They're going to make us pay the price. You see what I'm saying? So that's when inflation goes up, and that's why it's just like a big. It just keeps going down. You see what I'm saying? Like, so don't think these things don't affect you, okay? And I'm not saying I'm for Trump or against Trump. I'm just stating the facts, you know what I'm saying, of what these tariffs and just these things do, okay? And so that's why you see the market dumping over 104% tariffs and stuff when they see stuff like that, because they know inflation's gonna rise, and all these wars are going on, these tariff wars and stuff, okay? So ultimately, that is why the market drops, because less money means less money in the markets, and then more inflation. That means the companies have to pay more for their products. Companies have to pay more for their products and their materials. So ultimately, to reduce how much money they're spending, they're going to have to lay people off, right, to save money. More job unemployment, that means less money in our pockets, right? Because if I'm unemployed, say I'm unemployed, that's less money in my pocket. That's less money that can go into the markets, right? And so that's ultimately why the markets keep dropping and dropping, because all the bad news. This is, you know what I'm saying? So bad news. So basically, this is bad news, right? So that's where I have an edge going into tomorrow. Like, okay, I can see price dropping if I see any type of change of character and a retest, which it follows the strategy, so I'd be in regardless. But I'm just already having some type of edge on the market. You see what I'm saying? And so another thing, Trump's tariffs will go into effect at midnight tonight, including an expected 104% tariff on China. Excuse me, as we already know, the 104% tariff on China. It says U.S. Customs and Border Protection says it is prepared to begin collecting country-specific tariffs from 86 U.S. trade partners starting at 12:01 a.m. Eastern. So basically, that's at 12 o'clock. That is already going to start and come into effect. And then let's also look at our after hours, see what we are looking at in after hours. We can already see we are down 3% on Nvidia, Intel, Apple's down 3%, down to 170 bucks, 770 bucks. We can see Tesla's down 3% already. And this is just aftermarket. So this is on top of what we already see, okay? So on top of, we already know SPY is down what? From 524, dropped down to 489. I think it's hovering at around 488. I think aftermarkets, right? And so after, we already know it dropped down, what, about 30 bucks? On top of that, okay, we're right here. This is where after hours at. On top of that, we can see the S&P is down 2%. 2%, oh, after hours, yeah, 2%. We see the S&P is down 2%. The NASDAQ is down 2%. and so it's still just dropping after hours, okay? And so now let me go into my SPY real quick, see what we can be looking at going into tomorrow. I'm gonna delete all these zones, right? Go back into the daily actually. So this would just be my last little thing before I hop off of here, because I know this live is also a little long. But remember, guys, I just love teaching my knowledge, and remember, these are daily recaps going over my trades and where I can get better at. So sometimes they might be a little long, sometimes they might not be, but ultimately my job is to come on here and I want to teach you guys and also teach myself. So I don't just come on here just I'm teaching you guys. Ultimately, I'm on here teaching myself as well. So that's why they might be a little long, because I'm explaining to y'all, but I'm also going over it with myself. Okay, so it's a trade recap for both of us. Okay, so we're both getting better at the same time. So let me mark out an area of support. I got this 42.30 support. Why? Because this was the area of resistance. Also, we turned this resistance into support already, so that's an area of support. If we knocked there, I could see price coming down to this area of support. Why? Because this is where we could see we had this pause, and this is where buyers bought up at. So let me mark out this area. I'm trying to get a pretty number. 470.45 is a pretty number. And then right under that, we can see we had other wicks at. So I would have to mark out another area. So 466.75 is a pretty number. And don't think I'm just marking out random pretty numbers. It's still in line with the whole thing, okay? I just got to make sure they're pretty, okay? And then ultimately, if we drop past there, Jesus Christ. So you see this little gap right here? Let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we have another area of resistance right above it at 459.10. And then if we get further past that, we'll end up marking out more areas of support. But right now, these are our areas of support. I have this 482, this 470, 45, this 466, and 459. Okay, so we know these levels. So we see a level break. So if we see this 482 level break, actually, this area, because why? This was the area of resistance. So we see area, boom, price broke up. Boom, price broke up, so this is the area of resistance, because price could totally break past that. Well, price did break past that, but we see a struggle in price right there, right? So that is the area of resistance. So that is another area of support, right? So we break this 482, we're looking down to 478.50, right? That is $4 of price action, so that is still a payday, right? So we're looking at that 478. If we see price break through there, we could actually be looking at this. You see this? Let me zoom in for you guys. So if we break through this area of 482, and then if we break through the 478.50, we could actually be looking at a some type of reaction from this actual gap right here, right? So you see this fair value gap. This is actually a fair value gap, right? So I actually keep that marked. And remember, I like to have my big time frames yellow, so I would mark that yellow. And then I'm still gonna keep that one there, okay? So these are ultimately just little levels. So if it, not because once it hits those levels, I'm just gonna sell my contracts and get out, but because if I see bounces and I see a change of character off those levels, I'm not just wowed and shocked and just fighting the air because I'm like, it just turned up out of nowhere. No, this is an area of resistance. So whenever you have an area of resistance that gets broken, it's an area of support now. And then I know I have a fair value gap. What happens on fair value gaps, and what are fair value gaps? That is where an imbalance of orders are at, right? So we have a bullish fair value gap. So this is where you have an imbalance of orders. So right, so when it comes down into this area, you will see some buyers step in, right? And then so if that gets broken through, what do I have? I have another area of support, right? So that is ultimately why I just have them areas there. And so now we can come down to my 5 minute and see where another area of support is, right? And so I would honestly have this whole, because this is the order block. So actually I'm gonna delete this area, right? I'm just gonna delete that line because this whole area is an order block. This is an order block. Why? Because this is where we see this huge move, right? So if I see price break this 48, and if I see price break this 48, I'm looking for a retest, and then I'm looking at it to drop further down. And I'm knowing with this bad news, we could have price just straight tank through these levels, right? But ultimately, I'm just not going to be shocked once I see a reaction, right? I'm not going to be shocked if I see any type of change of character at these levels. And if I see a big reaction, or I see an engulfing candle start to react and get big, I'm known to cut my profits and take my profits, because I'm knowing these are levels of buyers, right? So just have these levels marked out. And actually, this is a smaller time frame one, so I will keep it purple. Or it was like a magenta, right? I kind of like that purple look. It was kind of like a magenta. I'll just keep it white, whatever. Okay, so have these levels marked. If price wants to break down past my 48, breaking this low, give me some type of pullback test, and then I'll be looking at it at this level. If it breaks past this level, I'll be looking at it at my other areas of support. I want to see retest, I want to see pullbacks, and I'm in. And ultimately, I will have these winners for you guys. Okay, I will have these winners for you guys. Don't worry, I will have these winners for you guys. I will be coming to the market saying I had a home run soon. Don't worry, okay, guys. And so remember, trading is risky. Manage your risk, follow your disciplines, make sure you study and know what you're looking at before you actually go in and take a trade, okay? Don't go in gambling, because you will lose your money, okay? And so remember, trading is risky. I love y'all. And remember, guys, stay persistent.